Hello everyone, how are you guys? Today is day 22 of my hashtag 30 days of talking to camera challenge. The date today is 13th of August 2023 and the day today is Sunday. Yes, I didn't take a break on Sunday also because I didn't want to break my consistency. I don't know when my college will reopen. Suddenly the notice will come and my college will reopen. And suppose if the day when my college is reopening is my day 29, then I would regret one day taking off. So that's why I'm not taking a day off. I'm recording videos each and every day consistently. Now let's talk about today's video. Let's move back to today's video. Till now in my previous videos I have talked about many things. I have talked about searching and sorting algorithms. I have talked about linked list, stacks, queue, different types of linked list, W linked list, singular linked list, W circular linked list, and after that I talked about stacks, queue, different uses of stacks, how queue works. Then I have talked about heaps, trees, different types of trees, how heap works, how heap sort works, binary tree, and all those stuffs I have recorded previously. If you want, then you could just go and watch those videos. I would recommend you to watch those videos if you want to see how I spoke about those topics. Now today in this topic we will talk about something else, but before moving to our topic, let me talk about something. In the searching chapter, when I was discussing the searching chapter, we have gone through into various searching techniques. We have discussed various searching algorithms. But let us consider a simple problem in which we are given an unsorted array and we have to find an element in that unsorted array. So what would be my approach? I would traverse through whole array until I found the particular element which I want to search. Suppose in this case, if the element which I wanted to search is at the first position, then I could simply get that element in the constant time complexity. And if that element is at the last position, which is also the worst case of the worst case, then I would get the element at big O of n time complexity. That means I need to traverse through the whole array. Now what if I have given an array, what if I have given a sorted array? In sorted array I could simply apply the binary search algorithm. In binary search what we do is we divide the array into half each and every time until we found our particular element. It is a similar approach that we do while searching a particular page number in our books. We first go to any random page, and if the page which we want to search is before that page, then we would simply search before that page only. We won't search in the remaining pages. So in this way, when we are searching in a book, we are just flipping the pages in randomized order, but while we are searching in an array, we just divide the array into half each and every time until we found our particular element which we want to search. So then we return the element. What would be the time complexity? Since we are dividing the array into half each and every time, so that's why the time complexity would be log n. I hope this was clear. Now let us assume that if it was possible to get the location or the index of the array just by looking at the array by a magic function that remains indexed in constant time, we can directly go to that location and see whether the value we are searching for is present or not in big O of 1 time complexity, that is constant time complexity. Hash function just works like that, and there is no magic involved. You may think that it's a magic function, how can I directly get the answer? So you may think that there is a magic, what is the function, but there is no magic about. That's a simple problem, and we will discuss that in this video. Now hash table. So what is hash table? Hash table basically is a data structure that maps values to its keys. Hash table is very similar to dictionaries in Python, but it's not actually the exact same thing, but it is very similar to dictionaries in Python. In hash table we are given some keys, and those values we store in the table, key and value, index and their values. It's the similar concept as the registration number and names are stored in the address book in the attendance register of the college. Suppose there are two people with the same name but different registration number. So these different registration numbers are the different keys of the students, and the same name are the values. So we can have same values for two different keys, but key would always be different. Now why we use hash table? We use the hash table when the number of keys is actually stored is small relatively to the number of possible keys. When I was discussing searching and sorting, that time I told that we can use hash table to search or sort. In both the cases we can use hash table. So first we will talk about how we could sort an element in hash table. What are the steps we need to follow? So the steps we need to follow in the hash tables there are basically 4 simple steps. First, what we would do, we would create an array of size n to store the data, and this array is called the hash table. Suppose my array is called hash table. Then we would find a hash code of a data by passing it through the hash function. What is a hash function? It could be anything. Usually we take n mod k, so it could be anything. K is a constant. Then what we will do is we would find the we know the hash code, and then after that we take the modulo of hash code by the size of hash table to get the index of the table where data will be stored. As I have already said, that k mod n or n mod k, and it could be anything. And then we would finally store the data in its destinated index. So what we are trying to do here is, first we would take an array, then we would take a hash function, and each element which I need to insert in an array, we would pass that to hash function, and then hash function will decide in which position that element would be stored. So I will store those elements in that position. The table might be sorted or might not be sorted, but all the elements would be passing through a hash function. And if I want to search a particular element, then I would simply go to hash function and I search the element, and then hash function would simply return me the value, the key of that element, and in that way I can search in a constant time complexity, because searching through hash function takes constant time complexity, as I've already discussed. Doing a mathematical operation always takes constant time complexity. You must be knowing this thing, and if you don't know, then I have already told that, so you might be knowing after I have said. Now let's move forward. What is the process of searching a value in a hash table using hash function? So searching a value in a hash table using hash function is quite simple. First we would find a hash code of the key we are searching from by passing it through the hash function, like I have already discussed. First we would find the key, that is the value, that is the key, that is the index of the array, and then after that we will take modulo of hash code by the size of hash table to get the index of the table where the value is stored. Finally we retrieve the value from its destinated address. So you may have one question in your mind, that why are we taking the modulo of hash code by the size of hash table? So basically we are taking the modulo of hash code by the size of hash table, because what if my the size of my hash table is very less, and the result which I get after passing my element through hash function is a lot more. So in that case we would take a modulo to get the accurate element, that is the index of the table. Otherwise it would give me out of bounds exception. So that's the reason why we are using why we are taking modulo of our result, why we are taking the modulo of our result with the size of our table. Now hash table is an abstract data type in Java. Since I have already told that I would be discussing things in Java, because I prefer Java language and I have learned these things in Java language, so that's why I am mentioning this thing also, although it is not that much necessary to mention. But since I am a Java user, and probably anyone who is watching who could be a Java user, it's possible that he could be Java user, so it would benefit that person. And if you are not a Java user, then you could simply skip that part, or else you could watch it. It would hardly take 1 or 2 minutes. So yeah, you could think that I am wasting a lot of time by speaking these random stuffs and not giving the valuable content. So yeah, that's probably right, because my main focus is to speak in front of camera and not to give valuable stuff. I am giving valuable stuff that could be a bonus for me, not for you, because I am not that perfect to make you understand. I am not that much elevated, and I know the fact. So yeah, don't without leave all that stuff. Let's come to our topic. So what is hash table? That's the abstract data type. So there are basically 3 main functions that Java provides us in hash table. So the abstract data type of hash function consists of the following functions. First one is insert. So insert x, like we could insert any element. So what insert function does is, insert function inserts a particular element into the table. Then the other is delete. What delete does is, delete function deletes a particular element from the table. Next is search. What search does is, search function simply searches a particular element from the table. So these are the three functions that abstract data types provide us in the hash function. Now let's move forward. Let's talk about now hash function. So what is a hash function? A hash function is a function that generates an index in the table for a given key. Suppose key is an element which I want to insert in the table. So how do I know that at which index I would insert that key? So I would pass that key through a hash function, and then I would get the index of that key. Hash function could be anything. An ideal hash function that generates a unique index for every key is called a perfect hash function. So what is a perfect hash function? Perfect hash function would be an ideal hash function which would generate unique key for every element. Suppose I have 2 elements, one element is A and one element is B, and I pass both the elements in the hash table, and for A also it gives me the index 2, and for B also it gives me the index 2. So that is not a perfect hash table. If it gives me index 2 for A and index 3 for B, then I could call it a perfect hash table. I have taken just example of 2 elements. Suppose there are a lot of elements in a hash table, it is giving like same result for same index for many elements. So it's not a perfect hash function. A hash function which provides a unique address, that is a unique index for each and every element, I could consider it as a perfect hash function. I hope this makes sense and this is clear. Now let's move forward. Now before getting forward, let me tell you about a simple hash function, how a simple hash function look like. So a simple hash function would look like hash value modulo the table size. It would like simply give me the index of index. Now this is not a perfect hash function. There are many hash functions. The function that I told just now is a very simple hash function. Various hash generation logics will be added to this function to generate a better hash, that is to make it a perfect hash function. We could use various logics to it. Now let's talk about one more important point which is also in hashing, that is collision. So what is a collision? When a hash function generates the same index for two or different keys, the problem is known as the collision. Ideally, the hash function should return a unique address for each key, but practically it is not possible. So we don't have the perfect hash function. Many times the hash function may generate the same similar key for like two or many outputs. So suppose if I have already stored a value at index number 3 and then hash function is generating one more key, it's giving me the same index. So it would create a case of collision. I can't put two elements at the same index, right? So in that case we should like use different method, that is double hashing, and there are like many other things which we can use to avoid collision. I can't recall them actually. I can't recall them currently. It's not that I don't know those functions, but I'm not able to recall those functions currently. So I hope the collision part was clear. My objective was only to explain you the collision part. Now let's move forward. Now it's very important to understand what are the properties of a good hash function. The properties of a good hash function is: first, a good hash function should provide a uniform distribution of hash values, that is, it should provide me a unique index for each and every element that I am trying to insert in the hash function. A non-uniform distribution increases the number of collision and the cost of resolving them. Cost of resolving them basically means if I am trying to resolve the collision, that if I am trying any method to resolve the collision, then my cost will increase. What is meant by cost? Cost could be anything, either time complexity or space complexity. Either I would require more space to like store those functions, or either I could require more time. Like if I am using some different methods or some different array, then I could probably require more time to like search in two different places. So that's the cost of resolving the hash function. Now what is the second point? The second point is we should choose a hash function which can be computed quickly and returns value within the range of hash table. So suppose the range of hash table is 0 to 10 and I am using a hash table that's giving me the value like 23 or 87. That's not preferred. We should always try to use the hash table which is hash function which is giving me the value within the table range. That is, it should give me the value within 0 to 10 only. It could give me like 5, 6, 7, 8, anything, but within the range only. And one more thing is that it should not repeat. Like I discussed in the first point, it should not give me repeated values. Now let's come to our third point. So what our third point says is we should choose a hash function with a good collision resolution algorithm which can be used to compute alternative index if the collision occurs. So what I am trying to say is, suppose I have given two functions, one is A and one is two elements which I need to insert in my hash table. One is A, other is B. Now suppose my hash function tells me that A would also be stored at index number 2 and B would also be stored at index number 2. So here a problem occurs with me. So I would prefer a hash table which will say that okay, A is already stored at index number 2. Now I am trying to store B also at index number 2, but index number 2 already contains A. So what I can do is I could simply insert B at index number 3 if index number 3 is empty, or else I could insert B in index number 4 if it is empty, or else I could insert B in index number 5 if it is empty. So I could insert it in any other index which is empty, and even at the searching time also that function should give me the exact value, not that suppose I inserted 3 in B in index number 5 and when I am trying to search it is giving me the address of B is index number 2. So that would also not be preferred. Now the fourth point, we should choose a hash function which uses the necessary information provided by the key. We should not consider a hash function which is not using the information provided by the key. That would cause a lot of like conflicts. Now fifth point. This is a very important point and you may not understand this point, then I will explain it to you further. We should consider a hash function which has a good load factor for given sort of keys. Now you may have a question in your mind that what is a load factor? What do you consider as a load factor? Let me explain. So a load factor can be calculated basically by maximum allowed numbers of element in the hash table divided by hash table size. As I have already said, this is done to like bring the elements into the index. Now, based on the above definition, load factor is a measure for how many elements hash table is allowed to contain before its capacity is full. Suppose the capacity of the hash table is 7, so load factor is needed to make sure that only 7 elements could be inserted in the hash function. When the number of elements exceeds the product of load factor and the current capacity, the hash table is rehashed. Normally the hash table size is doubled in this case. For example, if a load factor is 0.8 and the hash table capacity is 1000, so what I will do is here is 0.8, that is load factor, sorry, what I am trying to say, I forgot. Yeah, so what I would do is to know the maximum number of elements which we can insert in that table, I could simply like multiply load factor with hash table size. So the hash table size is 1000 and the load factor is 0.8, so 1000 multiplied by 0.8 would be 800. So I can insert 800 elements in my hash table. What I am trying to say here is, if my table is already full, then usually in that case a new table is created of the double size. And how do we know that what is the how many elements I can insert in the table? By simply checking its load factor. I hope this was clear. Now, since we have already talked that we need to we need to keep collisions as low as possible, and in many cases collisions may occur. So how we could resolve them? There are some ways by which we can resolve collisions. Let us discuss about them. So first we need to understand what are collisions and how we can avoid that. So hash collisions are practically unavoidable when hashing large number of keys. Suppose I have given a lot of keys and then a collision occurs, then it's very difficult for me to resolve those collisions, because that's practically unavoidable. But techniques that are used to find the alternate location in the hash table is called collision resolution, as I've already mentioned, as I've already talked about. There are a number of collision resolution techniques to handle the collision in hashing. So there are many techniques to resolve the collision in hashing, but right now I would talk about two main techniques, and in detail I won't go in much detail of these two topics. I would discuss these two topics in detail in my further video, the video which I will be recording and uploading tomorrow. But for today, let's keep up to this only. So what are these two methods? These two methods are called open addressing and separate chaining. So let me give you a brief idea about what an open addressing means and what a separate chaining is. So open addressing, what do you understand with the word open addressing? Open means like it's open, and addressing means the index, basically the index. So if the index at which I want to insert is already closed, then I could give it the other index that is open. So that's basically the open addressing. Like I have already taken an example of like A and B. If one address or one index is filled, then I would move it forward to another address which is empty. If this is also filled, then I would again move forward to any other address which is empty. If this is also filled, then I would again move forward to any other address which is empty. So in that way we would try to find an address which is empty and insert it at that position, so that my space would be reserved and no space would be wasted, and all the elements would be inserted in the hash table. That all the elements that I have to insert is inserted in the hash table. So this is called open addressing. Now comes what is separate chaining. So what basically means by separate chaining? Separate chaining, by term only you can understand what does the term separate means in basic English language. Separate means different, and chaining means a chain, like something to store address, like something to store values, a chain, like an array or linked list or anything. It could be anything. So separate chaining. If my data is filled like in index in index 3, I have already inserted a value. Now I want to insert one more value at index 3, but it is already filled. Then I would include a separate chain, and in that chain I would insert my other element. Suppose I want to insert one more element in that chain, then I would make one more element, one more chain, like one more node, or like anything. It could be anything, a chain or address of array, or it could be anything, and I would insert my value there. So in that way, this is my array. Suppose this is my array, 1 2 3 4 5. First element, second element, third element, fourth element, fifth element. In third element, I want to insert one more element. So after this third element, I would create a one more chain. If I want to insert one more element, then I would create one more chain. So it would be looking something like this. In third, there are these many elements. In fourth, there are like only one element. So it won't be like popping outwards. if there are more than one element, then it could be popping, it could pop out. So I am just trying to visualize you that how things work. Exactly these things not happen in the case in the computer system. Nothing like this, a hand or something like that happens. It just stores the value or stores the address. But I am just trying to make you visualize the thing and makes you understand like what exactly is happening inside the computer. In detail of this like separate chaining and open addressing, I would make a further video like how these things work. I will record and upload that video tomorrow. But for now, keep till this only, and I hope you are able to understand what I am trying to explain. Even if you not understand, you could just comment, and I will provide you with suitable resources from where you can learn those stuffs. And for you, I would recommend you to watch the videos of Abdul Bari sir, and there are many other YouTubers who can like follow Free Code Camp also, and there are many more YouTubers. Like I can't take the name of all other. You can follow anyone, and the best resource which I could follow is you could go and read from books. Books are the best. Books and official documentations are the best. You need to have a like reading and understanding from a book is already a skill, so you need to know that skill also. So yeah, let's keep up to this only, and I will meet you in the tomorrow's video. Thank you so much for anyone who have watched my video this far. Thank you so much. Bye bye. All the best.